Mr. Zaga, thank you so much for joining me again. I know I haven't recorded a video in a while, and I wasn't thinking of recording this video, especially with all the hassle that I'm going through trying to record this. I think I need some of the light and something like that. Yeah. With all the hassle that I'm going through trying to make this video, it's just not worth it at this point. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to be talking to you about something that I've always wanted to make a video about, and that's product photography. So a couple of days ago, my brother dropped on a few products for me to photograph. They're actually t-shirts. So he said, hey, Chris, is there anything you can do with these t-shirts? And then I realized that I didn't want to do the generic white background, folded t-shirts, things like that, or t-shirts on a hanger, on a white background, you know, the catalog product images. I wanted something of more of a narrative, something of a story to it. I wanted to show these products in a way that they've never been photographed before, or in a way that no one would think to photograph, just to play around with a few things. So I'm going to walk you through some of the things that I did, some of the actions that I took, and why I decided to go that way. I don't have a lot of behind the scenes, but I'm going to be some footage that I shot around it. So I don't have a lot of behind the scenes to show you my process, but I'm just going to show you some of the things that I did through the images and through the creativity that went behind this. So one of the most important thing was this log. So this log made into the photography because of how beautiful it is. Look at it. It's amazing. It has lots of characters. It has shrooms growing on the side. And then I realized that after the shoot, I'm just going to keep this shroom, this log, and I am going to find a way to nurture these shrooms that they grow. And then it will always come back to the set if I need to with other images. So yeah, so this, I incorporated this in because Josh and I both loved the idea of putting something into it, shoot it in a more that has character and the story behind it, because it's a Ugandan brand, and I wanted to incorporate some of the natural environment around me. So that's why this thing made it in. The other bit of thing that made it in is this vase. I love this vase so much. It's really, really beautiful. I've had this vase for coming to over a year now. It's beautiful. It's always in my studio. I love it so much. And I got this from a Ugandan artisan when I was shooting a project a couple of, probably about last year or the other year. I don't remember, too much COVID. Yeah, I think 2020. And then I've always had it. I have a couple of cups from him, and it's beautiful. So I wanted to build a set around things that I have, the natural elements that I have around me, and even outside. So what I did is I also did, because we have these small lemons, and we also have like a guava tree. So I thought, why shouldn't I incorporate some of the green and the nature into this shoot? And yeah, so this made it there. So this, it was so nice. I was just experimenting, and that's the beauty about shooting product images with freedom. You have the ability to experiment with some of the things that you love. If it works, it works, and if it doesn't, then it's okay. It doesn't have to work all the time. But I'm happy with the images, and I'm happy that I incorporated some of these into it, and it came out really, really, really well. In terms of lighting, I use my WESTCOTT. So I've had this probably since the beginning of last year. So this was the new addition to my lighting kit. I'd never owned a strobe before because I always shot with the natural light, daylight, with the sun. And then with this shoot, I also wanted to emulate the daylight within the images. So I took a couple of creative ideas or creative steps to make sure that it sort of looked like an effect from the sun. I wanted the shadows to be hard, so I went with a bare bulb. I want the shadows to be hard, not too crisp, but when you see them, I wanted them to look sharp and hard. And so this was enough to give me that. I haven't done a review about this light, but I think I will in the future because it's really, really beautiful. Yeah, I didn't want to make one out of the head because there is so much to unpack with this piece, and I wanted to give it time to come sort of understand it and be able to use it in all scenarios. I also went with my 5Ds. I need to check to make sure that the audio is recording, otherwise, yeah. I went with my 5Ds. When I got this camera, I wanted it to be a substitute to my 1DX, which had been my workhorse for a couple of years. But to my not so much disappointment, because I sort of knew the reasons why I got it. But I thought, hey, if it can also do well in outside, then I should maybe give the 1DX a rest and do most of the work here. But then I've realized that this is predominantly a studio camera, and I came to terms with that, and I went ahead and shot with it. So this is a 5DS, 50 megapixels, which gives me enough real estate for me to just be able to crop in and nail the images the way I want to, or the angles the way I want to. I also went to shoot with a 70-200 because I didn't want to get so close to the set, but I wanted also have that sort of crop that only the 70-200 would give me. The other lenses were a bit too wide for me, so I went with this. And the beauty about this sort of setup is I was shooting everything in Tethered. So my camera was hooked up to my laptop, and which gave me the ability to be able to just sit back and just click on the computer. And I don't know if many of you have shot like product images, but the beauty about shooting Tethered is that product imagery or product image photography is an addition and subtraction process. So you're adding a few things to the set, and then you're also taking out a few things off the set. So shooting Tethered and just focusing on the computer gives you the ability for you to see how it works, if it works on the screen, and how that's going to play out. You can also go ahead and do crops, add effects. Because I've been shooting in Tethered in capture, I get to crop, I get to add light, add some effects in, and then see how that translates. And yeah, I think it went quite well, and I've sort of drawn myself towards shooting capture more and more. Even when I'm shooting portraits in the studio, I just use capture. I use Tethered. I tether this to capture, and then I just shoot while I have a chat with my subject. So it was really, really good decision to shoot Tethered. That was amazing. The other thing is I incorporated this, which is funny, this mirror into the shoot because I was only using one light, and I wanted the mirror to act as the source of the other light. Can you see the other side through the mirror? Yeah. So I wanted the mirror to be the other source of light. So when the light hits the mirror, so the mirror will also become another source of light and sort of punch back the same amount of intensity as it comes through. So it's not like a flag or a white thing that just adds a bit of light. It actually becomes a light source itself. So the idea was for me to fill in light within the spaces that I thought that were too dark. And I wanted it to sort of look like the sun and how the sun would play out because, you know, the sun is too big. When light comes through a source, especially for the sun, when light comes through something, it will always divide itself into different areas where it comes through. So I wanted to sort of maybe play with someone's eye and say, hey, where does that light come from? Or how many lights did he use? So I sort of went with this idea, and that I think played out quite well for me. What's the other thing that I mean, the stands and things like that. So creatively, that's the freedom that I had. So I'm going to jump quickly into Photoshop, and then I'll have like a 2-minute chat to you about the images that I selected, why I selected those images, how I quickly edited them, and what creative choices did I made in Photoshop.
To capture one, I usually shoot, let's say, from about maybe 200 to overway up to like 5,000 images sometimes. And how I do my selection process is I go through each image at a time. Yeah, I know it's a hassle when you're trying to go through 5,000 images, but today I'm only dealing with 108 images. And so I'm looking for a few things. So I'm looking for things that I creatively made while I was shooting. So now this sort of thing will have from when I started with when the light was terrible to me trying to come in and adding into the different elements, adding into things that I thought could liven up the images for me. So what I went ahead and did is I selected my images from 1 star. So I rated them. I used the rating setting. So I rated them from 1 star up to all about 4 to 5 stars. So the rating that I'm using now is that some of the images that are selected are from a 3-star rating. So 3 stars and above is good for me, and those are some of the images that I'm going to choose from. And when I go all the way to 5, it's usually the images that I know that now these are the ones that I'm going to use, or the ones that I've already retouched and still brought back into capture. So those I'll give a 5-star rating. So most of the images here have 4-star rating, but I've already done the Photoshop into some of these images. Now let me show you the image that I selected. Now this is my final image. So my final image, you can see that I've added in a bit more light, and right here is the light that I was talking about with the mirror. So before I merged these images, so it was about 3 images that I merged together. So you can see image 1 here, it doesn't have the light from the mirror, and image 2, then the mirror with the light comes in here. So that's how I merged the 2 images, and I did the post-production in Photoshop, and I came up with this final image. So I went ahead and also selected another image from this, and with this image I think there was a lot to clean up. So there's this patch here that I cleaned up, and I also merged a couple of images. I think I must have merged about 3 to 4 images on this one. And so what I was looking for was a much more tightly cropped angle, and also again with the mirror. So when you look at this, you can see that I sort of used the mirror here. So the mirror gives me the highlight here, so it's another light. So if I'd used something like a board or a flag, it wouldn't have given me this a highlight. But since I'm bouncing the light off directly, the flash onto the mirror becomes my other source of light. So merging about 3 images, I came up with it. So you can see that I integrated that part of the mirror, and so this is the final image that I came up with, showing part of the vase and the wood with or the stick that still has the hanger cords on, and the cord hangers, and some of the leaves popping through. So these are some of my final images, and I also went ahead and removed this stain that was here, and then cleaned the whole thing up, and looks really nice. So it had a lot of things like this, so I went ahead and cleaned that, and then I came up with this, and this is now my final image, and I think I am happy with this one. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video, and if you like this sort of content, go ahead and hit the subscribe button such that every time I release a video like this, you get to watch it. And I want to keep doing some of this, maybe sort of behind the scenes explanatory into photography. I understand that I think there is some sort of luck in this sort of content now. So I was thinking to be doing some of this more, so that means I need to shoot more of the things, and that could be fun. So thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, go and hit the subscribe button, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up or recommend it to someone that you think that may like it. Other than that, my name is Chris Lutanga, and I'll see you soon. Peace.